the secret formula of wealth. If you don't understand the limitations of your mind, your chances of making big changes about it are very slim. I want you to look at your mind first and then at its paradigms. Let's personalize it and look at its paradigms together. By the way, this is the most valuable concept I've learned. There is the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the body. The conscious mind is a thinking mind. You know, the average person doesn't think. Did you know that the act of thinking is a subject not taught in school? You say everyone thinks, but almost no one thinks. I remember Earl Nightingale's quote, "If the average person said what he was thinking, he wouldn't say anything." Do you know what actually happens? We confuse mental activity with thinking. This is not thinking. People would never say what they say if they thought, and they would pay attention to their behavior. If people thought, they would never do this. In 1981, I read an article by my Dr. Lawrence Rampel, and that article had the following lines: "Thinking is a skill that can be learned, just like writing and playing the piano." A few public schools offer training specifically geared towards thinking. As human beings, we are expected to learn and teach thinking alongside the history of mathematics, physics, accounting, and learning foreign languages. And we learn a lot about thinking this way. The problem is that we learn our thinking skills piece by piece and never combine enough to see that big picture. If we were asked to explain what it takes to think effectively, most of us are not in a position to give a full explanation. Therefore, we cannot evaluate our own thinking skills or systematically teach thinking skills to others. You think it's the conscious mind. It's also what we call the educated mind. I will come back to this topic, because I'm going to show you how far we've come from these. This is where your mind resides. The conscious mind also contains the intellectual factors that give you creative ability. When we say that we are created in the image of God, that's where the creative ability comes from. So what are these intellectual factors? Your perception, your will, your mind, your imagination, your memory, and intuition. Now, the subconscious mind is quite different from the conscious mind because it is emotional. It is what we call the emotional mind. See, the conscious mind can think, so the choice of things is in your hands. You literally choose where to go. Even if the choice is made unconsciously, it is still a choice. In this section, you have the opportunity to accept or reject the information. Let's say you come across the news about the economy and it tells you that the economy will sink. You cannot accept this. The situation they are in may make those people think that the economy is sinking. But for you, this may not be so. At this point, you can say, "No, it's not like that for me." You have the option to decline the information. If someone starts to tell you a bad story, you can reject it. Now think about it. You can accept or reject in your conscious mind. You can create ideas in your conscious mind. You can produce the idea you want. On the other hand, if we look at the subconscious mind, it is not capable of rejecting things. It has to accept it directly. Therefore, whatever you place in your subconscious mind is what you will accept in your world. Your subconscious mind cannot discern when things happen in the real world or in your imagination. So if you imagine something happening and you become emotionally involved, it starts to happen. You might say this is ridiculous, but the Wright brothers didn't think so either. And Hillary, Steve Jobs, Thomas Edison, and Graham Bell didn't think so either. We hear these names and think they are different. In fact, they were no different. They were people just like you and me. Focus on this part. I have given you the basic information about your mind. Every minute of every day, you are overflowing with conscious mind information from the radio, newspaper, television, or other people. Moreover, you are capable of not accepting this information because you have a reasoning factor. You might think and then say, "I don't want this information," and you can have it go as it came. But the fact is, we don't do that. We don't do what we know. We are not just doing this. At the same time, we don't even think about it. We leave our minds wide open and these thoughts run through them. Remember what we said about the subconscious. He has no ability to refuse. He has to accept. So why are we doing this? How do we leave our subconscious mind wide open? Because we're programmed to do it, or that's why we do it. This is our paradigm. What happens in our subconscious mind determines what we do. It could be worth millions to you if you pay attention to what it lets in and what doesn't. It can help you live a healthier body or build a better business. See, that's how you're when you're a baby. Your subconscious is open, but you are not like that today. Being around you, everything goes to our subconscious. You are also genetically programmed, so you look like your relatives as well. A tiny particle of energy from your mother and a tiny particle of energy from your father came together and your core formed, and after 280 days you landed on this planet, but you have all the DNA of your mother and father. If we go back generations, many of our beliefs are genetically programmed, passed down from one generation to the next, and many of them are unfortunately nonsense. Unfortunately, Most of these drugs are formed when you are just a baby, and when you don't even have the ability to think. Self-knowledge is just an idea. Many ideas are one paradigm. Look at the people around you. In the absence of clearly defined goals, said Robert Heinlein, we stick to accomplishing everyday trifles until we become his slaves. Now think about this phrase. Think of the number of people you know who are enslaved to everyday trifles. They don't talk about anything, they never achieve anything, and they always get the same results. If they're broke now, they were the same a year ago, or a year before that. So why? Because we were surrounded by these thoughts when we were little kids, and the ideas that continued over and over again form paradigms. A paradigm is nothing but a multitude of subconsciously owned ideas. Even after 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, and 60 years, we live the way we were programmed when we were little. Did you know that most benefit recipients are 4th and 5th generation benefits recipients? Pretty weird. What are we doing now? Well, we leave this situation and go to school. So what does the school do? The school certainly gives us valuable information, but schools don't teach anything about paradigms. For this reason, you often do not do something that you do not know how to do. Now consider this superior knowledge but poor results. So what does this mean? This causes confusion and frustration. Now think about that for a moment. We have a great deal of knowledge, but we don't know anything about the paradigm. So watch here. Here's the drawing. Here's the model. All the information we got in school. We packed them here. But you know something? No, our results are not in this direction. You can see great people with very bad results, but they literally don't know what to do, because it is the paradigms that control their behavior. I don't have enough education. I don't have any work experience, but I make millions of dollars. I'm 81. But I have more energy than most 21-year-olds. I have a friend who is 81 years old who says she looks 60 and acts like she's 30. They say I do this pretty well, because I understood how to use my mind. Now look, if you really want to change the results, all you have to do is know how to change the paradigm. You cannot change the paradigm. No matter what you do, the results will not change. You see people going back to school just to know a little bit more. Their lack is not knowledge. They are insufficient in behavioral patterns. What they need to do is exactly this paradigm shift. That paradigm is a way of thinking and living. If you want to change our paradigm, you have to change their way of thinking and lifestyle, and do things that fit who you want to be.